Greetings, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland. So this video is about the Gulf crisis, if I can call it that. The tanker attacks that have been taking place over the last fortnight. It's part of this rising tension between Iran and several other countries. So who are Iran's potential foes? Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States. I say potential, but fighting has actually taken place. Look what's going on in Yemen, a civil war there with the Houthi rebels, who are the Shia Muslim denomination, backed by the Iranians, and the Yemeni government, who are overwhelmingly Sunni. That's the major Islamic denomination, supported by the Saudi Arabian government. So there's already a proxy war there. And likewise in Syria, where it's the other way around. The Iranians supporting the Syrian government and the Saudi Arabians assisting the Syrian rebels, including ISIS. Yes, Saudi Arabia sent weapons, sent money, released people from prison on the promise that they will then go to Syria and fight for ISIS and al-Nusra Front. So over the past 2 weeks, several tankers have been attacked in the Gulf. Is it the Persian Gulf or the Arabian Gulf? It's debatable. Historically, Westerners, we called it the Persian Gulf. In the last few decades, Arabs said, no, call it the Arabian Gulf. Some people say, let's just call it the Gulf. If you're in an Arab country and you call it the Persian Gulf, faces will fall. Whereas if you're in Iran and you to call it the Arabian Gulf, you would be very much frowned upon. So there we are. Now, it's important to note that Iran is not an Arab country. A lot of Westerners don't grasp the distinction between Arabs and Muslims. Okay, Muslims believe in a religion called Islam. Arabs speak a language called Arabic. Now, there's an overlap. At least 90% of Arabs are Muslims, but most Muslims are not Arabs. Okay, Iran is about 99% Muslim. Most of those are Shia Muslims of the Shia denomination, and a minority, perhaps 10% of Iranians, are of the Sunni denomination, Sunni Muslims. Anyway, so all these tankers have been attacked. There have been minor explosions. Nobody's been killed and nobody's been injured. It's astonishing. Isn't that a bit fishy? Surely there's nothing more flammable than an oil tanker. You know, it would go up like Krakatoa, you would think. Now, I know these oil tankers are quite cleverly built to try and make sure that they don't easily explode, that they can be insulated from this and so on. But even so, an attack that's worth its salt would lead to a proper explosion, not just damaging the hull slightly. So the Iranians have been blamed by other countries. So there's this unholy alliance of Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United States against Iran. Remember, Saudi Arabia and Israel were arch enemies. They still don't recognize each other. Because Israel obviously is the Jewish state. In order to found that, they had to push out the Palestinians, who are Sunni Muslims in most cases. The Saudi Arabians were their financial backers of the Palestinian resistance for decades. But the Palestinian cause appears to be a forlorn hope, and the Saudi Arabians no longer care about them. They see Iran as an immediate threat. So as I say, there are two major denominations within Islam, Sunni and Shia. The Sunni are at least 80%, and the Shia are most of the rest. There are obviously some subdivisions amongst the Sunni and the Shia, but it's not the case that they absolutely hate each other. Okay, so look at Lebanon, a country which is about 40% Christian, and the rest about evenly divided between Sunni and Shia, with a few Druze people as well. Druze is a schismatic religion of Islam. But the Iranians have a very cordial relationship with the Lebanese, and there's a Lebanese coalition government. Every president of Lebanon has been a Christian. Yes, there are Arab Christians, because Lebanon is an Arabic-speaking country. And they're in coalition, these Lebanese Christians, with Muslims, both Sunni and Shia. Hezbollah is perhaps the most Shia extremist organization, meaning the party of God. But Hezbollah is in coalition with Sunni Muslims as well as Christians, and on and on. The Iranians are also very helpful to the Palestinians. There are almost no Palestinian Shia. They're almost all Sunnis, the Palestinians. There are a few Palestinian Christians, and on and on. And in Syria, obviously, the Syrian government is backed by virtually every Shia, the few Syrian Christians, the Syrian Druze people, and a few of the Sunnis. So it's not the case that they hate each other's guts, they all want to kill each other, though yes, there is some hatred. It's a bit like, say, white people and black people in the United States. There's some people who are racist who want to kill the other race. And there's some people who are neutral about the other race, and others are fine, like the other race, love them, marry them. Anyway, so there are all these accidents, and people are always trying to pin it on the Iranians, saying possibly it was the Houthi rebels from Yemen who tried to blow up these tankers. But so let's go over this. Do we know that so these explosions actually took place as a human attack? I think it's likely at least some of them did, because some of them just could be accidents, ramming things below the surface, small explosions on board. And if these explosions were set off, do we know that the Houthi rebels do it? We don't know that for sure. Even the Houthi rebels did launch some of these attacks. Do we know that the Iranians were aware this was going to happen? We don't know that. Even if the Iranians were cognizant of this being about to happen, did they give it the green light? We don't know that the Iranians approved it at all. And it could have been someone way down the chain of command without the authorization of the president of Iran. On the other one is that it was the Iranian military directly who did it. Now, I don't know that. So the US has released footage, supposedly, of Iranian Revolutionary Guards removing a mine that failed to explode. Why would they remove it? I suppose the idea is they're burying evidence. So these could well be false flag operations by the CIA, by Mossad, by the Saudi Arabians, in order to try to point the finger at the Islamic Republic of Iran. I don't know that it wasn't Iran. It might have been. But it doesn't make sense from their point of view. They're heavily outnumbered. They've got no firm allies. They've got a cordial relationship with Qatar, with Turkey, with Iraq. But none of these countries have signaled they're going to fight. None of them sent troops to Iran. Nobody's going to be on their side. Iran does not want to take on the world superpower backed by Saudi Arabia and Israel. So Saudi Arabia and Israel used to hate each other's guts, but now seem to cooperate against the common foe, Iran. And Saudi Arabia has Bahrain more or less as a satellite, with Saudi Arabian troops there. To some extent, the UAE, they've all joined in these sanctions on Iran, so has Egypt. So oil prices have shot up because of these tanker attacks. 1/3 of the world's oil passes through the Straits of Hormuz, as in very close to Iran. It's reminiscent of the 80s, of the tanker wars, and the US military escorting tankers through the Gulf. So more US troops have been rushed to the region. And the Iranians, why would they want to provoke these countries at this critical time? It would lead to a war which would be catastrophic for them. They can't really win it, so they'd be very heavily bombed. Fortunately, I think anyone was talking about a ground invasion. And why? So the US broke the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, imposed more sanctions. There was no justification for doing so, despite the Iranians scrupulously abiding by the agreement. They stuck to the letter and the spirit of it, and the US just tore up this agreement. It was outrageous and extremely provocative. So the Iranians said, we kept to the agreement not to enrich uranium. All right, now we're going to enrich uranium because the deal is off. You ripped up the deal. If you don't abide by your obligations, neither shall we. And it's America's fault. So well done the Iranians, because the Iranians were gaining nothing from continuing to abide by the deal. So that's that. It's the US started this, not the Iranians. And obviously the Trump administration has been egged on by the Israeli government, who seem to be lusting for blood on this one. And who have the Iranians supposedly attacked, trying to blow up a Japanese oil tanker and a Norwegian oil tanker? These countries are not hostile to Iran, so why would they attack a completely neutral country? It seemed to be as unreasonable as possible, attacking neutral countries, trying to get more enemies for Iran. So it just doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense from an Iranian perspective to do this, which is why I doubt that Tehran has been doing that. Anyway, I'm worried about this steady drumbeat of war. Trump's approval rating is in the doldrums. His polls show that he's 10% behind Joe Biden on a possible matchup for the next election. So a short, victorious little war is what he thinks he should do. Raining bombs on Iran will cause an uptick in his approval rating. Well, as Ramsey MacDonald said, no war is at first unpopular. So I think it's obviously very bad news. But I hope wiser counsels will prevail. And there seems to be little enthusiasm for this in the United States. Even the Republican Party, there are not that many war hawks. So yes, you can bomb the Iranians quite a lot, but that's only so effective. We don't know that they have a nuclear weapons program at all. And even if we do, we don't know that this would stop it. So they've submitted to UN inspections, and the International Atomic Energy Authority has repeatedly certified that they have abided by all their commitments. The Israelis don't submit to such inspections. The Israelis introduced nuclear weapons to the region, despite Shimon Peres lying through his teeth and saying that Israel wouldn't do so. He knew that they'd already done so several years earlier. Iran is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, whereas Israel is not. Iran tells the truth about its nuclear weapons status, that it does not possess nuclear arms, and Israel refused to come clean on this issue. And yet the United States is supporting Israel against Iran. The United States is arming and funding Israeli aggression, the illegal occupation of the land of Palestine, of Syria, and of Lebanon, whereas Iran does not hold an inch of foreign territory and has not done so for centuries. Who's really aggressive? This is beyond chutzpah. This is really projection, accusing others of your own worst vices. So happily, the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom will stay out of this. I know that the UK government has been broadly supportive of what the US is doing, but I don't see any sign that the United Kingdom would get stuck into this war if indeed it occurs.